Our world is made up of numbers, people, and order. As artists, we enjoy breaking order and creating new and defined products. We are inspired to make, to build, and to remake. It is in our nature to use and reuse tools and technology we have access to, and this has led our civilization to many great things. In October 2008, our world of creativity and talent was dissolved, and our future was put in jeopardy. The Canadian government passed legislation that has hindered our creative abilities and eliminated a steady progress towards a better tomorrow. Our culture is now in ruins, and we must find a way to combat against this detrimental decision. This law is killing Canadian culture and destroying our future. This law is Bill C-61.
This is new copyright legislation that the government's enacted.
Michael Geist is a professor and research chairman of e-commerce law at the University of Ottawa. He is also an active blogger at michaelgeist.ca, a contributor to several Ontario newspapers, and an activist in digital copyright reform.
This is new copyright legislation that the government's enacted that does a couple of things. Most prominently, it creates legal protection for digital locks, digital rights management technologies that can be used to lock down almost anything in digital format, from CDs to DVDs to electronic books, and makes anyone who tries to pick that digital lock, even if their intent is legitimate and authorized by the law, it makes them an infringer.
C-61 is a grab bag. Most notably, it entrenches the power of digital rights management.
Laura Murray is an English professor at Queen's University. She's the co-author of Copyright Canada, A Citizen's Guide, and has combated against lawyers' beliefs that culture is a matter of creativity rather than property.
C-61 is a grab bag. Most notably, it entrenches the power of digital rights management, but it has a whole bunch of other provisions about internet service providers, about making available right. It has some exceptions for consumers and educators. It has provisions on performers and provisions on photography. But basically, it's I would say it's characterized by its lack of vision for what copyright could be. That is a system that will encourage innovation.
Government of Canada proposes update to copyright law.
Kerwin Cox is the chairman of the Copyright Committee for Documentary Filmmakers and Organizations in Canada. He has been actively involved in questioning the impact of Bill C-61 and the dangers of extreme copyright legislation with regards to documentary films.
Government of Canada proposes update to copyright law, balanced approach to truly benefit Canadians. Made in Canada. Lies. It's all lies. Well, obviously the bill is aimed at digital technology, digital reproduction, digital distribution, that sort of thing. So I would say that the objective is to, on the one hand, make Canadian copyright law more digital friendly, if you will, and on the other hand, to make it digital unfriendly in the sense of duplication or access to any material.
C-61 is a step back when it comes to our digital environment. By locking down content, it ignores the growth, the proliferation of remix and mashup of new innovative companies and services that are building upon the internet and new technologies and don't need more restrictions, but rather need greater flexibility.
Art is built upon previous art. And so people will have paintings that refer to previous paintings or styles. They'll make songs that maybe are made up of previous songs and styles, and so on. And that this is really an integral part of the artistic and creative process. And what this bill does is lengthen the copyright period for a work of art. There's a joke that is unfortunately not untrue, and that is whenever Mickey Mouse is about to go into the public domain, Congress extends the length of copyright protection in the United States. It's called the Mickey Mouse Copyright Law.
This legislation is affecting artists in ways that they could never have envisioned. Authors and performers aim to please and serve their audience in non-restrictive manners, but are not able to do so with this new law. To add to this misery, this new law has impeded our digital era and technological advancements. Before this bill passed, our resources were becoming more compact, more effective, and more accessible.
Digital technology in general is destroying history. And the reason is because film, for example, if a film were shot in 1900, over 100 years ago, you could still probably run it through a projector and still see what was on it. And even if you couldn't run it through a projector, you could hold it up to the light and see what's on it. A lot of people who bought early computers, say 30-odd years ago, early personal computers, have no idea how to retrieve the stuff on their computers because it's all an obsolete technology.
Format shifting envisions the ability for consumers to take digital content or content that's in one format and move it to another. There was the hope that legislation would allow people to take the content that they've purchased and move it from device to device, recognizing that we're not dealing now with pirates, we're dealing with people who've actually purchased this content. Yet what C-61 does is say that even if you've gone ahead and purchased this content, the act of moving it from one device from another, format shifting that content, is now itself an infringement.
All of a sudden, in the digital materials, if there's DRM around them, which there usually is, we can't do that. So this has a really extreme effect on freedom of expression, on our ability to create new things, to comment on the past. It's a really weird thing to do in 2009, to suddenly say, we only care about freedom of expression in analog formats, because analog formats is not where we're at.
Technology doesn't get a vote in this change to a controlling, limiting law. The law will impair our digital selves and undermine our technological futures. It punishes our educational institutions, and the law puts our society into reverse and deprives students and educators of valuable learning resources. Bill C-61 is a disaster for the nation's global intellectual competitiveness.
I find it very distressing that the new copyright bill requires librarians and teachers and gallery owners and so on to become police for other people's copyright. One way that the bill makes librarians into police is that it says you can share things, but they're going to have to evaporate within 5 days. Or you can share things, but you have to put DRM around them so that students can't keep them. They can only read them while the course is in session. This goes against the whole spirit of being a librarian or being a teacher, that we all of a sudden have to put all these walls around what we give to people. I don't want students to forget things 2 days after I've taught them. I want them to remember them. I want them to have them, be able to refer back to them.
Bill C-61 was strongly opposed by education groups, and there's good reason for it, because it really does have the effect of, I think, causing significant harm to the education world, both with respect to the research that might be conducted, where people who want to conduct research suddenly find themselves locked out of content, find that over time certain data is locked down and not interoperable with newer technologies, as well as students today who are looking for the ability to access books that increasingly come in electronic form and find themselves locked out of those books with restrictions on how they can use them, despite the fact that the law would otherwise say that they're entitled to use them in a manner that would be described as fair dealing.
As far as I'm concerned, the government is not open to actually improving the bill if an improvement means doing something that Hollywood would consider unacceptable. So we're working within a framework that's quite limited. I found it very ironic that they said in their press release that they are introducing a Made in Canada copyright bill. Whenever you see the words Made in Canada, you know it's a copy of an American bill.
Copyright is a really complicated kind of law. It's not like a speed limit where you know instantly, are you going over the speed limit or are you not going over the speed limit? It requires human judgment to interpret it.
Canada faced a real crossroads when it enacted Bill C-61. There was an opportunity to put forward a forward-looking policy when it came to our digital future, one that really embraced the potential of the internet, embraced new technologies, and created new laws that really fostered and facilitated new kinds of innovation. Instead, we took a different path, and C-61, I think, moves us backwards rather than forwards. And so looking ahead, I think many people are really concerned about where we go to from here. looking at the experiences in other countries and recognizing that this legislation has had a real negative impact, and knowing now that we have it here in Canada as well, which is not only unfortunate, but particularly damaging given that there were opportunities to go in an entirely different direction.
We spend our time and our money on lifelong learning, educating ourselves, so that we can stay current as society changes. C-61 undermines our education and our competitiveness in the world. C-61 sets artists and audiences against one another, painting creators as greedy and controlling. This is a democracy, and this law is being promulgated in our names. Technology can take us to a better, smarter, freer future, or it can shackle us with DRM and criminalize us for remixing and creating from the culture around us. Don't let them take away our digital future to save a few multinational entertainment giants' analog past. It's bad for a digital Canada. It's bad policy.